Alrighty, hey everybody, this is Sherman Ray, and this is This Week in Prophecy. I hope everybody's doing well today. It is Thanksgiving week, and it has been, I'm not turkeyed out yet. No, not even close. Won't be turkeyed up for many, many months now. And hopefully that you all had a great time as I did. Hopefully you spent some time with friends and you were able to thank the Lord and praise the Lord for all the things that are going on in your life, because I know I did. So for those of you, this might be your first time checking out the show. This Week in Prophecy comes on about once a week, and we talk about all kinds of cool things, specifically about the prophetic, dreams and visions, and what the Lord is doing in America and around the world. Co-host on our show is Mr. Aaron Newton. Aaron, how are you doing today, brother?
Hey man, what's happening?
I'm doing well, thank
good.
you. Yeah.
I'm not turkeyed out. I went to visit my dad. There was 4 turkeys there that day.
Gosh.
But man, there was a lot of people.
4 turkeys.
Yeah, I made one, and the other lady made 3 more because she had all her family there from all over.
Oh,
so.
my. So tell me all about that. So you went down to Arizona? Is that what it was, or?
Yeah, my father lives in this. It's kind of like a retirement community. I guess you could say it's. You got to be a certain age to live there, and they have. It's really awesome. People drive golf carts around on the streets, and there's he said there's 121 different activities going at any time. So they do restore old cars, and there's basket makings and all kinds of arts and crafts, and then a metal shop, a wood shop, welding classes. There's just so much to do. And I was like, all right, well, when I turn 55, I'm moving in.
Why not? Shoot. And he's
really
got
nice.
And he's already got the inside skinny on everything, so he knows where everything's at already.
Oh yeah, he's lived there for quite a while now. Oh geez, I don't know, probably 10, 11 years he's lived there already.
Yeah, so I'm very excited about that. That's very cool. Great. Well, this Thanksgiving, hopefully, I don't know if people prophesied what was going to be going on here. I know that there was a lot of stuff going on by some of the bigger name guys that were saying, hey, guess what? This is going to be a different kind of Thanksgiving. And but I don't know if people really thought it was going to be as big as it was. I want to get your feedback on this too, because it's probably one of the biggest stories that we heard lately about President Biden and his son Hunter, and so many of you probably heard about this. Hunter Biden has been this prodigal child of Joe Biden, and he's just been out there doing all kinds of craziness. Well, he was under indictment, got convicted, and he was looking at 45 years in jail. I mean, it's just a big thing. Well, this weekend on Sunday, Joe Biden came out and he pardoned his son. And people were going, you got to be kidding me. I mean, you just got to be kidding me. And and I guess it came as such a surprise to many people. So Aaron, let me ask you a question, because you have dreams, you have visions all the time, and was it a surprise? Was this needed? What did you need to be a prophet to see this coming?
I don't think you needed to be a prophet, but I will say this, right? Sometimes, we talked about Kamala in her interview. It was a while ago, but when she's like, I'm a gun owner, and I was just like, yeah, she's lying straight up.
Yeah.
So I think that this happening, what he did over this weekend, was just what we've seen in the last 4 years from this administration. Oh, the best withdrawal from Afghanistan, lie. Just over and over. I'm never going to do that. The rule of law, what counts in this country, lie. It's just over and over.
Gosh.
And he showed his cards. He's like, I'm leaving. What do I care?
Yeah.
I remember when I was in the military and you change duty stations, you'd get this thing. It was called short timers attitude. It's like, whatever. I'm not even I come to work, but I'm gonna hang out all day by the bathroom and smoke cigarettes or whatever people
Hang out
did,
near the
and so
bathroom. Oh my gosh.
yeah, they had that, they had that short timers attitude where like I
Yeah.
don't really care anymore. I'm not, I'm leaving in a week, and so for this week I'm gonna just do whatever I want, and that's what I saw. Like I just saw another lie, made manifest.
Well, that's it's sad. It's just kind of a sad thing, and we've been talking about this. It's like the number one thing. I mean, we just had to bring this up, folks. It's just because it's such a. I think I think what it does is. So let me ask you a question though. Is what does this say to our allies? What does it say to the people of America about the leadership of America when they find out that this guy, not because Joe Biden obviously knew he was probably going to do this. It wasn't like this was a surprise to Joe Biden, right?
Sure.
And so all along he knew he was going to pardon his kid, and he lied anyways, and he did it for political purposes. We saw this during the election. They said, hey, guess what? This was going to happen. This was going to happen. And then it turned out to be a lie. Lie after lie after lie.
Yeah.
What is this? How are the American people supposed to, take this and to stomach this?
Well, that's again, that's I will say this. I don't think that he knew he was going to pardon him this whole time. I think he thought he was going to get back into political office, or his friends were going to get in, and he was just going to keep him out of jail and not have to lie. But then they're all leaving. The Senate is, flipped. The House flipped. He's like, I better just do it now because they're going to come after him. But I think it sends a horrible message to the people that you can't be trusted.
Mm-hmm.
These people cannot be trusted. And, but we've seen examples of this over and over again. Let's look at October 7th in Israel, right?
Sure.
What happened, right? Israel, what happened with Hamas and Israel? Israel stepped right in. That's it. We're taking you guys out. Why? Because it was their citizens that were attacked, right?
Yeah.
How many American citizens are still being kept in those tunnels and we did nothing?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? These things, all these things culminate into this big ball of wax, right? And this big ball of twine that says, yeah, we're not trustworthy and we really care about ourselves and not our people. And, I think there's just so much more to it. I mean, that's what the world sees.
Yeah. I'm thinking about an Old Testament story about a king who went out on the terrace and he was looking out at, it wasn't a Babylonian, or maybe it was a Babylonian king at the time. And he looked at all that he surveyed and he goes, I've done all this and I've done this and I've done that. And the Lord says, you know what? I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you. And he went around for the next 7 years like a raving wild man. He got long fingernails and, was out of his mind and everything else. And
Nebuchadnezzar.
It was Nebuchadnezzar?
It was Nebuchadnezzar. He ate with the goats.
Yes. And I'm thinking to myself, is this what it takes? Is this what is going to happen to America? Is this what is needed in America, where you're going to have a come to Jesus moment? Because what's the guy's name? Victor David Hansen. He said something very interesting. He didn't say a come to Jesus moment. He said come to a deity moment, right? And I go, well, whatever God you think, you're going to have to pay. You're going to have to pay somebody pretty quick, because our nation is supposed to represent something. It's supposed to represent the best that there is in America or in the world. We're the freest society. We're the greatest social experiment that's ever been. Only two nations have ever been founded upon Judeo-Christian, or Judeo ethics.
Sure.
And one of them is falling the wayside, like Israel did, many years ago. So what is it going to take for America and the wrath of God that's going to come down? I mean, my gosh, I can't imagine what it's going to be, because this we've just fallen so short of the glory of God.
Well, you know what, buddy? I will say this.
Mm,
Um, putting all the little stories, all the pieces of the puzzle together,
mm,
I know that we came very close to that,
mm.
right? That spiritual spanking, I like to call it, right?
Yeah.
Uh, like, think about how many times God had to destroy Israel
Mm,
and bring it back, right? With another generation whose hearts were pure. So, like, all the things that we're seeing, all these things happening, I don't think he cares about the big structures and stuff. He cares about the people and the ones getting hurt. And I don't think he's doing it for, the I think he's doing it for the hearts of the children. It's not really about anything other than the children, because that next generation, we came, I mean, with this election, we came this close to being a Baal society, where Baal
wow.
is the law of the land, right? We always say, like,
Mm,
oh, men and girls' bathrooms, that's crazy. But when it becomes law, now it's normal.
yeah.
It's not crazy anymore. Now it's
Yeah.
normal because it's law. We came that close. I mean, I really hope people understand how, we were on the edge of an abyss, and now we're seeing the whirlwind of change, right? The winds of change blowing through every. When we talk about this dream, I'll give you some good,
Mm,
just all the different changes and the things that are going to be set right because of God. It's not anything other than, Trump is a man, I'm a man, you're a man, but it's God and His will.
yeah.
And I think that people saw
Mm-hmm.
halfway. I think somebody said something to me today about his sister. He's like, my sister got saved, and I'm like, oh yeah, how long has she been saved? He's like 2020. I'm like, yeah. So 2020, man.
Yeah.
I listen to people's testimonies all the time. It's like 2020, 2021. Just God came in my room one day, or God gave me this
Mm-hmm.
dream, or this and that. And my story, same thing. And it's like these. He said, "Hey, wake up." How many people had an experience like I did and actually honored it by, okay, when I wake up, I'm going to write it down, I'm going to pray about it, and
Yeah.
then I'm going to meditate on it and ask, what are you saying to me, God? How many people had the exact same experience I did and just like, well, whatever. Okay, I had a dream, it was crazy, but then there it is. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? He was looking for those people who are willing to do what he asked, honor him, because he's pouring out onto people, and they're
Yes.
not. A lot of people aren't realizing they don't have a foundation, or they don't have anything to lean back on, or anybody to lean back on. So they just kind of went with it. But I think, these last 4 years, we had to see what was
Oh my
behind
gosh.
in the box, we'll just
Yes.
say, right? What was
Yes.
hidden in the box.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right.
So,
And I'm hoping, praying and hoping that not just the reckon, the what do they call frontline guys, the people out in the masses are we're able to see it, but the church sees this. Because I don't expect the world to say, oh, wow, we just became almost a Baal society, okay? But I hope the church did. You know what I mean? The church needs to say, oh my gosh, we need to have. I mean, the churches should be full, right? People were out during 2020, 2022. Now it's 2024 because of COVID and stuff like that. I would expect them to be back in church in mass, because we just saw, oh my gosh, one of those moments, and it should be a come to Jesus moment for the church. And I mean, are you
yeah,
hearing that?
you're right, buddy.
Yeah, are you hearing that? Are you feeling
100%.
that?
I think that God came to, like this Abraham God moment where he said, show me 50. Okay, show me 10 righteous people and I will save them. And in the circles, you see these people bashing other people, and these people talking about this and this is blasphemy, but you also saw a group of people, and I will say that 10, right, that were just praying and righteous people. I'm not just 10 people. It's more than that, but
Mm-hmm.
They were righteous people and praying, and God delivered on just that small group of Christian
Mm,
people who prayed for the entire nation,
yeah.
who prayed for not just fill my church, but help help our course correction.
Yeah.
God, over the time, he changed his mind every time Abraham said something. Okay, no problem. Okay, 30, 40. Okay, 10 people. You find 10 people. And then Abraham gave up. What if he would have said one person? Do you think that it would have changed that whole thing if Abraham went from 10? Okay, if I find one righteous person, I don't know. Maybe he would have, but I think that small group of people who took God's voice and honored it and said, I'm going to pray for this nation and I'm going to pray for these people. And he delivered. I mean, like I
Man.
said, a lot of people just don't know how close we really were.
Yeah, well, praise God. Well, I'm praying that you are right, because I'll tell you, this is I know I'm really feeling it, and feeling an urgency. Feeling an urgency, and I hope you are too, folks. For those of you who are just watching the show, you just tuned in, and you're thinking, what are these guys talking about? Well, I'm Pastor Sherman. This is Aaron Newton, and this is This Week in Prophecy, and we're just talking about, the winds of change. What is the Lord speaking to His people? And and as we're saying, over the last 4 years, we've seen a seed change in America, where the pendulum swung all the way to the left. I mean, not just to the left, but it swung all the way to the left, as far as it could possibly go. And then in a massive move of God, the nation, with one voice, said, enough. We're tired of this. But here's the problem with the whole thing, with America saying no, because we saw a landslide election, that if something does not replace what has just been displaced, if something doesn't come back in to fill that void, something awful is going to replace it. There's a scripture that talks about that if the house is wiped clean, that demon is kicked out, and it goes around and it tries to find a place, and it doesn't find a place to light, and it comes back and it finds the house that it just left swept clean, that it's going to come back 7 times worse than what it was before. And America has seen that twice. I don't know if you've ever read this in Jonathan Cahn's book. One of his books that I can't remember. It's the Josiah. I think it's the Josiah Manifesto or something like that.
Josiah Prophecy.
Yeah.
Or is it Manifesto?
Yeah, it's one of his. He's written so many books, I lose count.
Yeah.
But he related that to what happened to America in the original America. The original America, that this was a pagan country. It was a pagan land. It was. I shouldn't say it was pagan. It was godless. There was no God here. There were a bunch of people that roamed the plains here, Native Americans, people call them Indians, whatever you want to call them. But when Christians came here, they rid this place, this land, of that paganism, and it became a Christian nation. Well, years later, America found itself godless, that we had become a post-Christian nation. And we had allowed Christianity to wane. We allowed churches, we had allowed the Bible to be swept under the cover, all those things. And what happened? Satan came in like a flood in America. And we saw the rise in pornography. We see the rise in this, blah, 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 all these things. Well, we're in 2024. That pendulum had swung all the way to the left again. And we saw transgender, we saw, abortion, we saw pornography, we see all this evil that you can imagine, and not just in the rank and file, but in the highest points in our government, right? Aaron, when you first saw that they had hired into the head of the military, because you're a military guy, when you first saw them hire into the heads of the military these pro-transgender platforms, were you able to even hold it back? What was your thought when you first saw that?
Here's what gosh, this is so tough. I'm just like, so your job as a soldier is to fight, not, to elevate any kind of DEI, any of that stuff. It's to fight and
Yeah.
protect our nation.
Hmm.
All that stuff was so just a distraction. We're gonna, if we can change the minds of the military, because veterans have a lot of pull in this country. We
Mm.
do have a lot of pull. People respect veterans, and and so they thought, well, if we could change the minds of our military to this DEI, this all inclusive thing, well, then we can, that's a pool to get into to change people's opinions.
Mm.
Now, I'll say this: when I worked at a shipyard in Washington, and so I was a civilian, worked for the Department of Defense, and I saw those changes coming during the Obama era. They started where the guys used to come. One of the guys I worked with used to be he was the base police, and he used to stand at the gate and let people through, and they would come in with their uniforms all tied in a bow. And I don't know, he told me a lot of stories, but you could see that change happening before Trump had took over, as got inaugurated president. And he was just like, I can't stand it, I couldn't stand it anymore, so he moved over to where we were. And I mean, it just really hurt my heart to see,
Mm.
we that's a hard job, and it's a hard life. There's a lot of hard time in the military, deploying and stuff like that, and then putting all this on people and trying to change their mindset to this new idea that is just wrong. It's
Yeah.
just especially if you're a Christian in the military, like, it's really bad,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it hurts morale, and
Yeah.
morale is a big thing in the military. So
Sure, because you're trying to convince these guys, these young guys, that hey, you're going to go fight a war that may not be a righteous war, right? Or it might be. I mean, your job is to not to question that, but and yet you do. And now you're
yeah,
saying, where's my government gone? Um, has my government become really crazy? Because now we've got guys wearing dresses, and they're putting on makeup before they put on their helmets, right? before they clean their M16,
yeah.
they're putting on their high heel pumps, and you go, oh my gosh, is this what I signed up for? So, um,
And I get it. Like, one or two people, like there was a couple of people who are influencers, and they were doing that. And I get it. Like that, that's a small majority, but they encouraged everybody to be okay with it. It wasn't just
mm,
that those, that guy from the Navy, and there was a couple other people as, you know, whatever, cross dressers, and then they encouraged it and said it's okay. This is the way we're going now. This is our new inclusion policies, and like, oh man, your job is to fight. That's it.
that's
That
all
was
your
my
job is
job,
to
for a
fight.
long time.
Oh gosh. Well,
Yeah.
I know we're going in the weeds here, folks. That's kind of but I think what it shows in it, and that we're going to talk about it in just a little bit more here, how it relates to this dream that Aaron had. But the country was going in the wrong direction. I mean, just going in a direction that was just kind of scary, and now we're moving in a new direction, and so we're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a second here, okay? But before we do that, so Aaron, you sent a dream over, and I want to get into this dream because I know you've got some interesting that the Lord showed you some interesting things about this dream, and so I want to leave plenty of time to talk about it, and
Okay.
yeah, go ahead, and because this is very interesting.
Okay, yeah. Let's read. So, I was at a birthday party, and I knew it was for a 7-year-old child. I just knew these. This is where I was at, and the mother and the grandmother were running around getting things ready. I knew that I was in Spain
Mm-hmm.
at this party, so it was like it just looked like a Spanish house. I guess you could say there was like, what do you call those, like garden doors, where it was the two
Yeah.
doors that open up to the backyard. Just,
Mm-hmm.
I knew I was in Spain, and it was cold. It was winter out, and it was really cold. And the lady's telling me, "Hey, can you get the ACs working? It doesn't really work." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? It's freezing outside." I'm like, "I'm not doing that." And so So I'm looking out the window from the apartment, and as I'm looking out the window, there was public executions going on. And
Wow.
what they were doing was these executions were happening, and you could see, like, I could see it from the window where they worked. I could see where the executions were happening. This was kind of a big thing. There was people, crowds all around, and they were waiting for these things to do. And so you could see it right from where they lived. And on the first one, it was two men, and they were inside a wooden crate, and they were like being suspended from a crane, and they were holding the boxes, these crates, over a dry dock. And if you don't know what a dry dock is, it's like they bring a ship in, and then they put this wall, and it blocks off the water, and then they drain the water out, and the ship rests on blocks so they could work on, the propellers or whatever, paint it. And so they were they were suspending these crates over a dry dock, and it was empty. The first one didn't have any water in it. And so they dropped the boxes into the dry dock. And when they hit the ground, they just kind of like burst into pieces. If the men survived the drop, they ran out. And these two men, when they ran out, the people that were in the crowd were circling the dry dock, and they beat them to death.
Oh my gosh. Hmm.
So yeah, so they survived the drop, the initial execution, I guess you could say. But when they ran out, the people were waiting to beat them. Okay, so after the party, everybody went home. So I'm watching the execution, and then all of a sudden the party, everybody's going home. And then there was one more set of executions. It was about 9 or 10 people, and they were put in, same thing, put in wood crates. This time, the dry dock was full of water, and they were lowering the boxes into the water. um, they were lowering the crates into the dry dock. It was full of water. This time I was watching it, and I was watching it from under the water. So as they lowered them down, it was like I was in the water, like, you know, like with scuba gear on or something. I didn't have scuba gear, but I was just in the water floating, watching these boxes being lowered into the water. I could see the boxes lowered, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is such a horrible way to die. But everybody escaped from the boxes. They broke the boxes and escaped. I could see the boxes, and one of them, so they were just regular square crates, but one of them was shaped almost like a coffin, kind of, you could say. It was like that, and it kind of went down into like that, kind of like a coffin. But inside the coffin, the man was in the box, like in a crucified position. He had his arms out, and his feet were together, and his head was at the top. So he was in that position, like crucified, but this box was made in the shape of a coffin, almost, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm watching. I could see his legs and arms were stretched out. The box was in the shape of like a triangle or a coffin. That's a better way to say it. The man arms were stretched out and the legs were together, like a crucified position. So I was in a different room, like a hotel room, with the brother of the woman who was having the party, and he didn't speak English. And I wanted to listen, and he was listening to the radio, listening to the executions on the radio, but I could see it outside still. And we were in the hotel room where he was staying, and he gave me one of the radios, and I could hear this one in English. He was listening in Spanish, but I could hear mine in English. And then I asked him a question, and he got real mad,
Hmm.
and he said something to me, um, really bad. Like, he got real angry with me because I asked him a question, and he said something to me like, bad words, just
Yeah.
cussed at me.
Uh-huh.
But I knew that he didn't know what he was saying. He didn't know. He really didn't. He didn't know how to speak English right, and he thought that was just like a normal thing. Like, hey, I'm trying to listen to this, but really, what he was saying, like, you know, f off or whatever. And so I asked him a question. He got irritated. I understand. I know you don't know how to speak English properly, and what you said was insulting to me. And so I said, that's not how you speak to me. That's not how you're going to speak to me. And I showed him the proper way to say it, say what we wanted to say. And then the room. So, I told him, like, you don't talk to me like that. Let me show you how to say hold on a minute or whatever. So I instructed him how to say it, and he was like, oh, okay, thank you. And then I turned around to look out the windows, and I noticed that the window, my eyes were like right at the bottom of the window, and it was a stone path, like the dry dock, and all the people were gone, and all I saw was a stone path in front of me, like the road was, big stone blocks.
Yeah.
It's an old like Roman type road,
Mm-hmm.
and that was it. I woke up. So let me just say this: this was the second dream from the November 15th. So the last one we did 2 weeks ago.
Uh-huh.
That dream that we talked about last time, after I got up and prayed, went back to sleep, this was the second dream I had that day.
Cool. Well, so let me ask you a question. As you're kind of thinking about it now, as you've had some time to think about this, what's the Lord showing you in this dream?
So the boxes, right? What do we do? Why do we put things in boxes? Store them away. We don't want to see them. We hide them. Where things are in those boxes that were being hidden, let's say, or like I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to throw in this box, put up whatever. But the people inside were, convicted of this crime, whatever it was. It was. I feel like it's against the people. It was something against the people or the government or the country. And that's why everybody was out there like, yeah, like we want to see these executions. And when they all survived the execution, the people were waiting right there to take them out, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, here's the boxes, hidden things people didn't know about, whatever it was. And then we see almost like, I see it representing as a corruption, right? Like maybe somebody getting pardoned for 10 years worth of crimes.
Sure.
And then, but the people weren't having it.
Yeah.
They're like, he put out this thing saying like, oh, well, it was a political hit on my son, blah, blah, blah. But the people are like, no, we see right through you.
Yeah.
And we're like, you're not going to be able to get out of this one. Yeah. Even though those people escaped because of corruption, let's say, the people weren't having it.
Yeah.
And so they took into their hands to say, we're canceling you. We're not going to do business with you. Or all these things, whatever it was, like just say in the natural. The man, let's see. I don't know about the party. I don't understand why I was at a party. I think it was, yes, it represented a birthday party, but we're in a celebration, right? Like, let's say we're in a time of saying, yes, we just narrowly didn't walk over that cliff, right? We're celebrating, this 7-year-old child's birthday. We're having a party. Why I was in Spain, I don't really understand that. I never had a dream. I did have a dream about something Spanish before. I was moving to a hotel, and it was in Tokyo, but all of the furnishings looked like a Spanish castle.
Yeah.
Anyways,
so let me go back. Can I go back to that?
Sure.
The 7 years. The 7 years. So the number 7 in the Bible is, biblically is a number of completion, right? So so maybe that, but it's a completion of a birthday. It's a birthday party, or it's a party. I wonder if it's a birthday party for a 7-year-old child. Is it? Could it be so we right now it's 7. So it's not completely. It's not completely 8 years since Trump got into office, right? Would he be the child? Would he be the one who's like, because really when he first got into office, he was like a babe. I mean, he really was a child.
Yeah.
Right?
He didn't know politics. He didn't know people in politics. Right.
Yeah, but now he is pretty much, he is a veteran now, because I think the thing that's really kind of surprising people now is the speed in which he has got his whole cabinet done now. I mean, he had his cabinet done by Thanksgiving, right? And that may have nothing to do with this at all. But when I see the number 7, I'm thinking the year of completion for a 7-year-old. But it's a completed 7-year-old. What is that? It's a 7-year-old child.
Well, let's say this, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember the dream where I had to throw my seeds of faith at the woman who was giving birth?
Okay.
Right. So let's say you had 4 years of really just people fighting against him.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had 4 years of just back, back to the Stone Age. So let's take the first 4 years, and then we'll take the first 3 years of this next administration, right? What is God birthing? He's
Mm.
birthing a new nation from an old nation, right? Not that old, but a new nation from this smaller childlike nation, right? Young. We're young compared to most of the other nations around the world, compare, as who we are, So let's take 7 years, whatever 7 years is,
Mm-hmm.
whatever God needed 7 years to complete something,
Mm-hmm.
right? The birth, here's
Sure.
what I'm birthing. Here's this child who's 7 years old now. Now
Yeah.
you'll see, here's the party, here's the celebration, whatever,
Yeah.
however
Well,
that looks. I don't know.
oh yeah. Well, because I know after
Could
7
be.
years, the people were like, just like you. There was not. There was a sense of optimism when this election happened. I mean, right after it happened, it was like woohoo! But it didn't happen in 8 years. It happened in about 7 years. I mean, it was pretty much when they knew he was going to run for office, they went yes, and it was pretty much. Somebody said something very interesting just recently. They said that the nation was ready. That no one, there was not a there was not a Democrat candidate who could have beaten Trump. It doesn't matter if it was Joe Biden. Doesn't matter if it was Gavin Newsom. Nobody could beat Trump because the nation was done. They were done. It had been completed. What they were fed up with the spending, the DEI, the craziness, anything you could imagine. They were done with it, and so. This, I mean, who knows? This could be. I know when you first said that, I'm going 7 years. What the heck is seven? I know 7 years is completion. Okay, but a child.
Yeah.
Okay, all
A
right.
child who's 7 years old, right? Like, look what I'm birthing. Now that you understand what I'm birthing, throw
Yeah.
your faith at it,
Yeah.
right?
Well, politically, Donald Trump is a child. I mean,
Yeah.
he's literally has never been in politics, and when he decided he was going to run, I mean, he decided he was going to run after he lost, but we did. But it was a year. It was basically a year before the election before he actually said, "I'm going to be doing this." Interesting.
I wouldn't even look at Trump. Just look at what God's birthing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah. What
mean,
God's birthing,
Trump
sure.
is a tool. Trump is a vessel in God's hands. He's a piece
Definitely.
of clay.
He sure is. I think that is a
Yeah.
wise observation. He definitely is.
Yeah.
So, what else about this vision sticks out in your mind?
The crates, like I said, the crates being dropped,
Mm-hmm.
but people escaping the drops, right? Escaping the water. They tried different ways to, let's say, execute or whatever it was, being dropped, and they escaped these different ways, but the people were there. I think about the dream where I was standing on the waterfront, or sorry, take that back, where I was standing in a circle with a bunch of other patriots, and we were holding hands, and all these people in the middle of the circle were convicted of treason. And
Mm-hmm.
the judge said, now that you've been convicted of treason, you can be executed, or we're going to send you back to the country that you came from. And he said specifically Somalia and Palestine.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think what's happening is we're about to see the wind blow through these agencies, right? These, let's say, these different boxes, right? We're about to see the wind blow through and just hammer clean.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's I think about it like this. You can say, you can see with your eyes, right, what's happening, what God is doing in this nation. He's doing it with the political, he's doing it with the religious, he's doing it with the school system, he's
Mm-hmm.
doing it with every single thing. We can, I got in this discussion with this woman, and she was telling me, this was before the election, and she's telling me that Joe Biden Donald Trump was the fault for Afghanistan, and she's reading all this stuff. And I said, okay, well, you read a bunch of stuff off the internet. I get it. But what did you see with your eyes?
Yeah.
Trump wasn't even involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
It was all this administration. Stop telling me what you read. What do you see with your eyes? If we see these things happening over and over and over and over, how can we not say, look at what God's doing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what I think the win is coming for these people.
Huh.
Um,
You've got so I know we're kind of bouncing around all this stuff and just kind of deciphering
Sure.
what this whole thing. What sticks out to me on this is the dry dock. They were lowered into a dry dock, and so and as you were speaking, I was saying, okay, what is a dry dock? A place of repair, right? It's a
Sure.
it's a place of repair, and I don't know if, and maybe there's something in these boxes, these crates were being lowered down into that. These boxes, these things that were meant to carry things, these things that, these crates. And can you describe the crates? The wooden
Yeah,
crates,
they were just
right?
like a wooden crate, like a shipping crate.
Yeah.
Just like a wooden. When the first one was empty, so
Okay.
these people were going. They meant to kill these people. The second one, they lowered them into water, right? So what is water?
Mm-hmm.
Baptismal,
Mm-hmm.
right? New birth, right? Especially in Christianity, it's a new birth. It's dying to self. Like
Mm-hmm.
one of the men was in the shape of crucifixion, like the
Okay.
cross, like
Yeah.
he was crucified, but inside this box. So when I see that, like they're lowered into the water, yes, this was meant to destroy something, but it's also rebirth,
Yeah.
a new birth, right? So there's that, and then yeah, I just wow, yeah.
Well, so you've got a one that was shaped in a cross, shape of a cross, and now you've got one that was actually in the shape of a triangle.
That's the one. It was in the shape of a triangle, or like I think of it more as a coffin. I know I put on there a triangle, but
Yeah.
it's more of a coffin shape because the man inside the box was arms out and his feet were together, like he was crucified. Is what I. That's the one that I'm talking about.
Okay.
All the rest of them were in these square crates.
But one was
Just
in
one of
a
them was in this shape.
just one of
Yeah,
them. Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
Very interesting. Well, the Lord is going to do something. Now, you were mentioning something earlier before we even got into this, is that you're seeing winds of change that are happening in America. And what did you mean by that? What is the Lord showing you about winds of change in America?
So 4 years ago, I when I was at work, there was a guy that he used to work there with me. He's in the Navy now, and another guy that moved up and he works at the lake. And I always used to tell them, "Hey guys, the winds of change are coming." Whenever I'd feel the wind blowing outside, I'm like, "Don't you feel the winds of change?"
Yeah.
And they're just like teasing me. But what it meant to me, I saw this 4 years ago, like God breathing. Okay. We
Hmm.
don't know where the wind comes from and we don't know where it goes, but we know that when it comes, it takes things, right? So
Yeah.
the dream where the door opened and the wind came through the room, and he said, now prophesy to the wind. When you prophesy and the wind takes your words, right? We know that in the power of our tongue is life or death, right? So we know
Sure.
that we could speak life or we could speak death over something, and we know that we pray. Our weapons of warfare is spiritual prayer. We pray over it. We defeat that demons with our prayers, right? So the winds of change, like when like think about it like a western town, and now everybody's deserting. You just see that one tumbleweed rolling down. Here comes the wind through to clean it out, right? Just that
Yeah.
one tumbleweed left rolling. And that's what I see God breathing on it. Or there's other ways to say, like his footsteps, or
Hmm.
fire falling from the sky to clean it. Just a different way to say fire, that God sends down to purify.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, and it's,
gold purified in the fire.
sure. And it's funny. We met for your excuse me, not your daughter, your wife's birthday. She looks so much younger than you. That's why.
She does.
She
She
does.
does. She's good looking.
So we met for her birthday on Sunday, and one of the things we were talking about. Oh gosh, the thought just went out of my head now.
Mm.
Oh gosh, the thought just went out of my head. But going back to the God moving in our land, we saw such a pendulum swing move in this country. Do you feel like the Lord's going to begin to because we've already started seeing a winnowing of pastors, and we saw this, and just recently we heard about T.D. Jakes, and T.D. Jakes was accused of certain things, but then I think he had a stroke just recently.
While he was preaching.
Was it while he was preaching?
Yeah, it was right while he was preaching. Yeah.
Wow. And so we're seeing, mighty men of God being just, moved, adjusted, and now we see the nation itself, the nation that was just going out the window. I mean, just going out the window, where we were allowing so many things. One of the things that was going on was that they were doing this open border policy. They were saying, "Oh yeah, it's kind of an experiment that we're doing." And how much truth is in there, I don't know, but we can actually see it. We could actually see that there was some. It was purposeful that they're allowing so many people come to this country. That being said, do you see a shift going back the other direction? Do you see a shift going back the direction? And if so, what is the church? I mean, what has the Lord been speaking to you about what church should be doing with this vacuum that's going to be happening fairly quickly?
When you mean the other direction, you mean going backwards?
No,
To
no.
the left again?
No, because right now we've gone as far left as we're going to go, and the nation went, no, we're done with that, right? And now it's swinging back. So here's the problem with this whole thing, though, is I think Christians believe that, oh, guess what? We're done. Yeah, it's done. Woohoo!
Yes.
That's all done. Yeah. Happy days are here again. We're going to sit around and watch it happen, right? It doesn't happen that way. It doesn't work that way. If there's a vacuum, something is going to fill that vacuum. And
Yes.
and I know people have been saying, Democrats just need to find a new messaging way or something like that. And guess what? If you allow them, guess what they're going to do? They're going to find another way to do the exact same thing, because they are not going to change. I think that's the scary thing about it.
That's 100% correct. There's two things I want to make a point on this.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the end of the election or the campaign. What did Kamala do at the end of her campaign? I'm going to churches. And they said she was preaching, not just speaking at the pulpit. She went to churches, right? I'm going to go and I'm going to now talk to these people. Yes, they will change. They will become chameleons to find a way to get people, because they realize that people, again, are sick of what they're providing to us.
Yeah.
They're sick of what they're presenting. And they realize that again, that group of people who were the righteous, who stood up and said no and prayed over the nation, and the people changed people's hearts, right? So there's one. Secondly, oh man, now I'm doing the same thing. I don't remember what I was going to say. You said going back. Oh jeez, man. The border, right? Like you said, the border.
Sure.
Let's talk about that. What do you know? What happened before the last, not Trump, but before him? There was a thing, and I can't remember the name of it. Something Fast and Furious.
Yep.
They were letting all these guns go into Mexico,
Sure.
and saying, "Oh, we're just doing it to track and see where the guns go."
That's
no,
what
they
they
were
said.
not. They were feeding them to those people, because if you look at these cartels and stuff, they don't have AK-47s, they don't have FALs, they have AR-15s and M4s, and those come from here, right? So again, they're feeding them, just like when they pulled out of Afghanistan, they left all the equipment. So then when the Hamas attacked Israel and they showed video inside of Palestine, it was all these men with ARs and M4s. And where did they get those from? Afghanistan. Same
Afghanistan.
thing. So we're seeing these things play out. Oh, now we're gonna open border and then the cartel is gonna, these are long term plans that they had.
Oh yeah, sure.
But where's the church going, right? Like,
Yeah,
so again, the rain falls on the just and the unjust, right?
yeah,
So we can say God is moving, right? I mean, basically saved Trump's life with that bullet next to his ear. That was a sign, right? That
yeah,
was like, hey, wake up. I'm moving. I'm doing things. Now we have to trust, pray, keep going, stop worrying about what we want. We need to look. I think about it like this: instead of looking up at heaven, we need to be looking down at earth.
mm,
You know, um, when Paul talks about, I don't know if I was in the spiritual or I don't know if I was in the natural, but I know that I was looking at the throne and I was looking down and I could look, I could see the heaven, what it looks like. Now live like that, right? It's hard. It's something a lot of people don't grasp, but it's something that we can do as we have a spirit inside us, and that makes us individuals. Flesh is flesh, whether it's brown, white, red, whatever. It's flesh and it's blood and it's teeth and it's nails, but inside of us is what we were made to be. We are spirit beings
yeah,
in a fleshly experience. We're not a
sure.
fleshly experience as beings, right? So
Yeah,
now we have to look down at earth from heaven, not look up to heaven from earth, and say, God, what do you want us to do to keep this momentum going? What do you need from us,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that's spiritual warfare. Anyways, there's a lot more to it, but my point is, don't. It's not done. It's
No, no.
not going to be done because, like you said, once you're clean, and you're talking about Return of the Gods. That's what it was. Once
That's it.
once that
Return of the
vessel is
Gods.
clean,
Yes, sure,
once the vessel is clean, the spirit comes in 7 times worse. But where does he go first? He goes to the hot, dry places
sure.
and he wanders around,
He's
and then
looking
he
for a
comes back and
place.
like, let me see what's going on over there.
Yeah,
So if we allow that, if we don't our use our weapons of war, our armor,
yeah,
right, then it's just going to happen all over again. Now, we know what Revelations say. We don't know the timeline, but this dream, these prophetic things is the times and seasons, right?
yeah,
These are the times and seasons. That's what a prophet does. He tells the times and seasons through whatever God is saying. And it takes people to say, I receive it. Let me pray about it. God will give their own, you know. So you know what? How much time do we have left? I wanted to
Oh,
read
just
something to
yeah,
you.
just a couple minutes. Yeah.
Okay, can I read this to you? This was actually another dream that Cecilia had,
Uh-huh.
and I'm just going to read it to you really quickly, but it's kind of dark. So this was 3/9/2022. She was sitting in an audience, like let's say like a movie theater, and it was a congregation of church people. And these men with black robes came in, and on the black robes they had these red Baphomet like drawings on the robes, the red outline on their face, and their face was red. They were torturing Christians. She could hear them in the back being tortured. So her and I were waiting, being picked for torture and death. As we were crouched down on the floor, we were holding each other. I wanted to wake up from this, but I was consoling her by reminding me this is what we knew would come, and be at peace. Suddenly, she was seeing an alternative reality, and these people, like, there was no money. You had to have this device, like
Hmm.
an iPhone, and you could literally, you had to use the device to go into everything, to pay for everything, but they wouldn't let you in unless you went through this like beauty spot thing treatment. So it's like injections, and it changed from being a 60-year-old woman to a 20-year-old woman. So everybody in this alternative reality were young looking, vibrant. Um, but the only way to get in was to have that equipment, the phone or whatever it is. And she said, I didn't have one, but I had these coupons that let me in. The entrance was not visible to ordinary person. I couldn't find it, and the wall it was a brick wall that encased this whole neighborhood or whatever. He needed an iPhone or technology to be selected again. Somehow I was able to avert this. I found these vouchers that I was given as I was told that's how I would find the door again. I was able to get in this new system of society by entering through the beauty spot. I had a beautiful contemporary home with leveled steps, large windows. I only could have it by buying into this alternative reality. She had a husband and a child, and the man was very mean and he committed adultery. It wasn't me. She had a husband and a child. The man was okay. I don't think it was good to be with this man, so we were not together anymore. I left my beautiful home through the back and to avoid him as he packed his things to move out.
Mhm.
So this is I walked through this district where the ground was like cobblestones. There were leopards inside of a water fountain. It was purple and gold. I came near and it snapped at me. I took steps back. Only the elite, I remember I was undercover, could only enjoy this kind of freedom walking through. It was beautiful and a sigh of relief to live free.
Hmm.
So, you know, this is straight up Jeremiah 5:6.
Huh.
This dream is Jeremiah 5:6. Man, it is the brick walls, the in Jeremiah 5:6, he's like trying to escape this city that he cannot escape.
Okay.
And they had what was it, lions or tigers standing guard, leopards standing guard.
Yeah.
In the dream, the leopard was purple and gold. But if she got close to it, snapped at her like it knew she wasn't supposed to be there.
Yeah. Huh.
And this to me really seems like the end times, like a revelation end times type of dream, because only the elite, people with money, could buy into the society. But once you got there, you had to change everything about you.
Yeah.
You had to be fake, right? You were 60 years old, but you looked like a 20-year-old woman because you had to have these injections. Everybody in there had to look a certain way,
did. Sure.
beautiful. But in the beginning, we were in this theater with all other Christians, and you could hear them being tortured. And these men would come out and pick somebody. And I remember, I'm telling her, she's freaked out, like, oh my gosh, this, and I'm like, Cecilia, it's time to have peace.
Yeah.
I think about what did the early Christians go through in the Colosseum. I think God would have gave them that peace to say, be at peace.
Over.
You know what I mean?
It's
were
over.
they in there
Sure.
like freaking out? Or were they just like, you know what? I
Yeah.
gotta be at peace. God gives you that peace, I don't
Yeah,
know,
he
but
sure does. Well, I can't wait.
this was
So
a-
we'll have to invite Cece on to talk a little bit about that. I would love to hear it.
Yeah.
I would love to hear if the Lord's given her some insight into it. That would be very cool. Yeah. Wow. Well, this week coming up, folks, we've got on Wednesday, Aaron and I are actually teaching on the prophetic, which is very exciting. And I think we're in week 4 or 5 or something like that in it. Can you expand a little bit, Aaron? Tell them a little bit about what we've been talking about, and maybe give them kind of a preview, because I know we're going to be moving into the new section of it, which is I'm very excited about it, and it's going to be talking about some of the other kinds of dreams that you can have, or excuse me, the other kinds of prophetic, what would you call it? Manifestations that you might have. So give them kind of an invitation for it.
Well, you know what? It's been a couple weeks, man. I'm like lost now.
Yeah, I know.
If I don't keep going with something, like when I come in here, I had to dust off all my stuff. So, something. It's good that you say this, because something new has been happening to me, and I'm kind of lost.
Yeah.
Maybe you can give me some insight on this, but
Yeah.
usually I'll wake up at 3:30. I'm jarred awake sometimes, and I go into the room and I pray. And I don't know if I showed you this picture, but I was praying one day and I was like really in it, man. I'd been there for a while. My friend had called in. He said, "Hey, man, I know you play the drums. Can I have a picture of your drum set?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I took a picture, and this blue light was shining down from the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, oh, maybe it's just the lights. And I tried to recreate this picture, and I could not.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, is this like and I just got up from praying in that exact spot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is this, what did I do here? Is this a portal? Like, I don't know what's going on.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So now when I wake, that was quite a few months ago. When I come in and pray, and so like I pray over the nation, I pray over my friends, my family, my people. I pray for, all these people in leadership positions. I pray, I make my petitions to God, and then I listen.
Yeah.
I stop and I listen. Right, God, what do you want to tell me? I know you have something to say. And for the first couple, I don't know, month or couple weeks, I felt like I was falling asleep. I'm like just sitting there listening, meditating, but I'm getting these things. I'm seeing these visions, and they're like, quick. And I thought to myself, oh, I'm falling asleep during prayer. This is not good. I'm in a bad way. But I started writing them down.
Yes.
And then I realized this is what he was talking about. You're praying in the spirit.
Yes.
What does that mean? Now I'm looking down at earth from heaven.
Yes.
He's showing me these things, like the woman. Remember I told you about the woman who was being taken away by the police, and they were like, she was like, I never taught them those things. That was, I'm on your side. Like, this is the kind of things I saw during this time.
Yeah.
So at first I'm struggling with that. Like, oh, I'm falling asleep. This is not good. I'm supposed to be spending time with the Lord, or he's not talking to me, but he is talking. It's just a new way. He's talking to me.
That's it. So Aaron, I'm going to interrupt you on that, because you know what? We don't have time to talk about it today, but we're going to talk about this next week. Okay.
We'll talk about it tomorrow.
Yeah, because this is good, folks. We just gave you a hint of what a new, maybe somebody else is saying, oh gosh, that's exactly what happened to me. Tune in next week, folks. Tune in next week, because we're gonna talk a little bit about this. Okay.
Or tomorrow.
Yeah, or tomorrow.
Tune in tomorrow. We'll talk about it tomorrow.
Yes, that's right, because you can watch it on our Sagestone channel, and you can check this out too, okay? Aaron, thank you once again for being a part of the broadcast today, brother. We will see you again next week, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll talk later. Bye-bye.
All right, bye now.
And folks, I want to thank you all for being a part of the broadcast. That's pretty refreshing. And I know some folks are going, man, that happened to me too. I think it's something that happened to me. What are you talking about? Tune in next week, folks. Tune in next week. We will actually have it on this broadcast, or if you check us out on our Sagestone channel, on our godstream.org, you're going to actually be able to see this too. So, because it's our midweek Bible study where we're going to be talking about the prophetic. Anyways, folks, check out the broadcast. This broadcast, we're actually at broadcast number 21, I believe, 21 or 22. We'll have this up on Spotify, up on Apple Podcasts, or if you'd like to watch the video again, it'll be up on our YouTube channel or on godstream.org. This has been Pastor Sherman Ray. Thank you once again, folks, for being a part of the broadcast. And once again, if you would like to write us an email, just write it to thisweekinprophecy@gmail.com. It's thisweekinprophecy@gmail.com. We will see, and we'll get back to you as quick as we can. Guys, once again, we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.